Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my second of my 2022 MockReads Choice Book Awards videos, where I am focusing on literary/general fiction and historical fiction. So I decided to do these MockReads videos in honor of the Goodreads Choice Awards, which I've used for years to try to encourage myself to read front list titles, because at the start of the Goodreads Choice Awards in October, usually, we would have the option of doing a write-in round for the first round. So it didn't even matter what you read, like if you didn't read any of the popular stuff, so long as you read in the genre in the correct time period that was in contention, you could have a say. And so I was always excited about that, and I'd write a blog post about my favorite front list books. I don't read a lot of front list. There's just too much to read, too much more backlist. So anyway, I was very excited, but last year the Goodreads Choice Awards decided to do away with their write-in round. They found it too cumbersome, unless they bring it back this year, but I assume they won't. So now you only have the option of voting in the opening round and the closing round, and they will use whatever criteria they want to, I guess, to populate their lists with some of the most popular books of the last year. So alas, but I still wanted to keep doing this in a way, so I decided to do my own MockReads, list. So anyway, that's my preamble. And this is already going to be a bit of a crazy video. I had a bit of an existential crisis with these particular books. Not at all like my SFF video that I did a couple months ago back in March, which I'll link down below. I don't know, it's really easy for me to find pretty popular front list SFF science fiction and fantasy that I want to read. So I don't know, this is more complicated for me for reasons to get into literary fiction and especially historical fiction. So here we go. Basically, I only have a couple of books in each category that I am going to read in the next coming months before I put up a blog post about my favorite reads of 2022. It's obviously very biased because will have read next to nothing in any of these categories. It's just, the time I can take away from all of my other reading commitments. Anyway, I think I've made enough excuses and rambled enough, so I will start by talking about my literary/general fiction picks, which is the easier category technically. The first book I am going to read for literary fiction is Schmutz by Felicia Berliner, which I heard about a few months ago, and I went to virtually a Jewish Book Council event that she did, and then I put it on my most anticipated releases of the second half of the year, part of my mid-year freakout tag. And I was just very intrigued by this premise because it's about a Hasidic woman who I think in all respects wants to live a pretty traditional life, except that she has developed a secret obsession with online pornography. And that clash of worlds is just something that really intrigues me. Anyway, maybe I should put this book down before I get zinged for this particular cover. That is quite the placement of Hamantash in there. For my second pick, I have been struggling a bit. My first thought was to use Fencing with the King by Diana Abu Jaber, which was on my anticipated reads list for the very beginning of the year when this came out in the first half of 2022. I'm still very excited to get to it. The thing that I've been niggling about is whether it is technically contemporary fiction or historical fiction, because it takes place in the 1990s, so like, is that historical now? I feel like a lot of people my age and certainly older would say no, so maybe I should just go ahead and keep it here and try to get to it for this project, but at the same time I just can't get away from the feeling that maybe this is a little more historical. It not only is historical because it takes place in the 90s, but it's very much about family legacy and family history. So I've just been niggling about whether or not I can include it based on my completely arbitrary rules for this project. So I decided just recently, just today in fact, that I would substitute that book instead with another one, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, which I believe at the moment is popular enough that I might be seeing it on the Goodreads Choice Awards ballot as well, so that would be nice. Anyway, this is a book with Jewish rep and with disability rep. Although I just watched Kendra Winchester's video. She was a little critical of the disability rep, but that being said, it's a very popular book right now, and I've also read another one of Gabrielle Zevon's books a few years ago. I even saw her in person at East City Books in DC once upon a time for that book. I wrote a blog post about it even. I can try to find that. Anyway, I liked that book, and this one seems to be even more popular, and I figured, why not give it a go? I mean, if the whole point of reading Frontlist is kind of to be where the cool kids are in the hip time, the hyped time, so I'll just go for it. And if you thought that was a bunch of ridiculous, angsty nonsense about nothing, now we go into my historical fiction picks. So I'll start with another one I had on my anticipated releases list from the beginning of the year, and this is Beautiful Little Fools by Gillian Cantor, which is a Great Gatsby retelling which takes place, you know, with those characters in that time period of the 1920s, and I've already read it. And so all of these are good reasons to add this as a contender for 2022 historical fiction. As for the second book, I had so many contenders, I debated if it would be the right second book to put in. I talked about Fencing with the King by Diana Abu Jaber earlier, which technically takes place in the 90s and is about family history in the Middle East. Then, for a long time, I decided I'd go ahead and read The Books of Jacob by Olga Tokarczuk, which technically was written in Polish in 2014, and then it got a couple of English translations. I think it was translated in the UK in early November, which would put it ahead of the Goodreads Choice Awards parameters for 2022. But in America, it was translated in February of this year, and none of this matters because it's my MockReads Choice Awards. It's my own rules self, but anyway, that's just part of what made me angsty about this. It is also a huge chunkster at over 1,000 pages long, and I was drawn to trying it because it's controversial in its way. It is a book about a 18th century Jewish Polish figure. Jacob Frank, who in fact sees himself as a messianic figure, is excommunicated by the rabbinate and leads a bunch of people to convert to Catholicism. So quite the figure in history. And the author is not Jewish, not to say that the book is anti-Semitic or anything, but it touches upon certain cultural themes in Poland which are explained more deeply than I'd probably ramble here in a JTA article, a Jewish Telegraphic Agency article that I'll link down below. It comes down to the fact that Jews are kind of a mythological force in Poland now. There are a few left, but most were wiped out by the Holocaust, and there's just not much of a Jewish presence there, and it feels like they've been sort of fetishized on the Polish left. I'm concerned that the whole idea of the fame of this particular book is that we're using the idea of this Jewish figure to talk about being on the fringes of a society and sort of being caught between worlds, and that's something perhaps that the Polish left feels like given nationalism in that country. It's just kind of weird to me. To go back to People Love Dead Jews by Dara Horn, which is, I believe, my favorite read of the year so far. It talks about non-Jewish fetishization of Jews and of Jewish death, and how Jewish lives are perceived, and I don't know, that's, I guess, part of the reason, other than also the, you know, huge page length, that I've been debating, do I really want to read this book? Or if I do, would I want to read it for this silly little project, or would I want to take a lot more time with it, be more serious, maybe do it as some sort of buddy read or scholastic read? If I could play Jewish geography somehow and find someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows Dara Horn, you know, who is such a, you know, a profound intellectual on her own, and maybe she would read this book with me, you know, a random, you know, Jewish booktuber on There have, in fact, been a lot of great reviews of this book on BookTube. I'll just highlight a couple. Courtney Ferrier, who has the moniker of the Jewish Mama of BookTube, she also reviewed this book. I do want to definitely check out that review, so I will link it down below. So yeah, all of that rambling to say, I debated it and then I decided to put that book aside for this project. And I am going back to another book that I previously debated and decided to put aside, but now I'm deciding to go ahead and read anyway. And that book is Atomic Anna by Rachel Barenbaum. In fact, in my last video, my page 112 tag video, I pulled out the first book Barenbaum wrote, another historical fiction book called A Bend in the Stars, and I will be reading this one this month, and perhaps it is Providence, and a sign that I really should give her other book a chance. I've been so excited about reading this author anyway. So anyway, Atomic Anna is a book that is about Chernobyl, mostly, which I think you could call historical fiction. I don't know how people feel about calling the 80s historical fiction, but when you put a name to an event, it feels like that's history after a certain time. The thing that made me waffle on it a little bit is that it has science fiction elements to it. So is it really historical fiction or is it science fiction? Oh no! And it involves time travel, and so it deals with Chernobyl. It also deals with family history and immigrant history in earlier parts of the 20th century as well. So anyway, I decided to go for it. My ridiculous, unneeded justification is that it deals with very verified historical events. The science fiction element is very much secondary, I believe, to the historical concerns. And the science fiction, in fact, makes it more historical than this book, where I think they ruminate on the past from 1990, but they don't actually go to the past the way that Atomic Anna does. And also, my last and completely, again, unneeded justification is that my historical fiction picks are both weird. Because this one is a Great Gatsby retelling, and then Atomic Anna is a time travel book, so they're both a bit out of the ordinary when it comes to historical fiction. So, huzzah, this is what I'm going with. So that about covers it for me now. If all of my weird rambles about any of these books have caught your fancy, I will link to their Goodreads pages down below. And hopefully I will enjoy all of these books and have an extra difficult time, I guess in October, probably deciding which ones are my favorites for my MockReads blog post. These are the books that everyone's probably reading right now because they're hot, popular frontlist books, so if you have any thoughts about them, go ahead and please share them with me. I'd be very curious to know what you think. I'm shifting gears for my next upcoming BookTube video. I am going toward AuthorTube, where I'm going to answer my monthly Author's Answer question, which is a series that was put up by AuthorTuber J.D. Archer. So stay tuned for that in the next couple of days. And in the meantime, thanks so much for watching, everyone. And I'll see you next time.